Good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful New Year's Day. I hope the ending to 2025 was spectacular, and I hope 2026 proves to be even better. I want to talk for just a minute about your movie scene analysis project. Now, I say project because it's not only a report, it's also a presentation and a magazine article. So the whole thing is the movie scene analysis project. In some places you may hear it referred to as a movie scene feasibility report, but I don't want you to think about it like a feasibility report. That's a specific kind of report, like a recommendation report. And what you're going to be doing is more like the chapter on research reports. So, for the movie scene analysis report, what I want you to do is to find a scene that proposes something that makes you say, is that realistic? And then I want you to analyze that scene for the various aspects that could be questionable. Now, it may be that the scene is very realistic. You determined through your analysis that everything they did is perfectly reasonable. Even so, I want you to figure out how. So for example, two scenes you can think of. One is from the movie Up, which if you haven't seen it, Google Flying House Up or put it in YouTube and you'll find the scene. And in that scene, it's where the house lifts off its foundations because of the number of balloons. So what could you analyze there? Well, you could analyze, the thing that always strikes me about the scene is the fact that there are enough balloons to lift off the house, like tear it off its foundations, and yet he had them covered behind the house somehow, had them pinned down until that exact moment. I don't know how that worked, but you could analyze a lot of different things. You could think of this as a force diagram, like how much lift is there versus, the downward force. So you could look at the tensile strength of the nylon string balloons. You could look at how many balloons it would take to lift the house. You could actually do some analysis and try to figure out how many balloons there are in the scene and determine whether that would lift the house off its foundations. You could try to look at the strength of the house, but probably not. You could look at this because that's too hard. You wouldn't know how the house was built. And even when it comes to how much it weighs, even that's a little tricky. You're going to have to use just some extrapolations if you can find somewhere where people talk about how much a small house weighs. So do you want to look at, it ripping the pipes off? Probably not. Too difficult. You won't find that information. But I would focus on the balloons and a standard house weight, and then possibly looking at the placement that they all come up through the chimney, and you could look at the placement and see if the house would lilt or tilt, like would it be off, because the chimney would have to be exactly in the center of the house. So look at a scene like that. You could use any sort of fantastical action scene to try to analyze it. What you don't want to do is look at something like Interstellar. It's too much. Basically, most Christopher Nolan movies, people love them. I get it. I have a love-hate relationship with Christopher Nolan, but he really makes a point of making his films seem realistic in ways that are not feasible for analysis. So I don't recommend using a movie like Interstellar I did have an interesting report about the movie Tenet, where someone tried to map out exactly the positioning of that midpoint scene and how it would map. If you haven't seen the movie, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have, you do know that it's a movie that is both forwards and backwards. And he mapped it out exactly and determined that the movie did it perfectly. And of course, because it's Christopher Nolan. Another scene you could look at, one that I would show you in class, is in the first Die Hard movie, where the terrorists, you can Google that too, look up blowing roof in Die Hard. The terrorists blow up the roof of the building, and the hero, John McClane, ties a fire hose around his waist and jumps off the top of the building. And then, boom, at the end. So what you'd want to look at there is the force on his body, the give of the, like how much elasticity the fire hose has, and what the sudden jolt on his body at the end would do. Even you could even look at the knot and you see how he ties it. What would the strength of that be? What is the strength of a fire hose? Etc., etc. There's tons of things you can look at. So, and then you come to a conclusion about either how it would be done, how it could be done, or whether the scene as portrayed in the movie is feasible, or is feasible in these ways, or is realistic in these ways. And when you're thinking about the problem that you're trying to solve, the problem is that movies portray things as realistic, and we don't know whether something is feasible in real life or not. And that's what you're trying to come to a conclusion about. And you're going to do that by analyzing this one scene. Okay, that was a lot, I know. I hope this helps. Happy writing.